Welcome to Climate Quickies, bite-sized nuggets of climate goodness from our TEDxLondon experts in under 5 minutes.
Our guest this evening is a physician with Conservation International. He is a disease detective working in pandemic prevention. He's worked around the world responding to Ebola outbreaks and leading New York City's COVID-19 contact tracing program.
I'm a doctor who specializes in rainforest conservation. For as long as I can remember, I've wanted to do public health. My dad was born in India, and he actually had smallpox as a child. And so over 70 years later, you can still see the legacy that the disease left on him in the form of scars on his face. I'm obsessed with vampires and zombies. There's a really interesting intersection. We use horror in this current day and age to help us understand some really scary things that are happening in the world, right? And that's why you see this proliferation of zombie apocalypse shows and movies, right? But, vampires back in the 1700s and 1800s, people consider vampires a real thing. The way we're talking about climate change, people were talking about vampires, in some circles. Yeah.
Vampires.
And vampires probably were inspired in part by rabies and tuberculosis.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, right? Right, they know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I'm a tuberculosis doctor. One day a week I see TB patients. TB is a horrible disease. After COVID, it's the leading infectious disease killer in the world. Over 1.5 million people die a year of TB. 1 in 4 people are infected with TB in the world, and that's a neglected disease. But I'm just saying, horror is a real way for us to understand the world and what we're experiencing. And so, Last of Us, I appreciate the show because it really put fungal disease, I think, in the spotlight in a way that hadn't happened before. And also we're talking about climate change and health intersection in new ways. So the show is very good. And if you, just very briefly, the idea is that climate change has led to a mutation of a fungal species that normally infects ants and essentially turns them into zombies. But climate change has caused that fungus to evolve into one that can infect people and turn them into zombies. And so it's a very scary story. To be very clear though, no zombie apocalypse as far as I can tell, though there are a lot of interesting parasites out there that can, beyond this fungal disease in ants, that can turn a number of different organisms essentially into zombies. But what concerns me is that climate change is increasing the threat of fungal epidemics and also increasing our vulnerability to those fungal epidemics. So what do I mean by that? There are over 1 million different species of fungi. We've only characterized around 5% of them. Now, part of the reason why we don't see more fungal diseases in humans is that there's this thermal barrier, that many fungi thrive at temperatures lower than the human body temperature, right? So we're normally at around 36, 37 centigrade. But with climate change, we might be seeing evolutionary pressures on fungi such that they can adapt to live at warmer and warmer temperatures, making some capable.
What is going on?
Yeah, no, that's one set of concerns. There's actually one species of fungal disease that's very concerning called Candida auris that is spreading in hospital settings, in healthcare facilities, that in some outbreaks of this fungal disease, again, in hospitalized individuals, 50% of people might die, right? But these, again, are people who are already very sick. But one theory for how this fungus emerged back in 2009 was when it was first recognized, is because of climate change. That maybe because of climate change, this yeast developed the ability to live at warmer temperatures, made its way onto birds, that then made its way into people, right? So that's one set of concerns. Another concern is that because of climate change, we're going to see more floods. We're going to see more droughts in areas. And with flooding in some areas, with droughts in other areas, we might see the spread of existing fungal diseases into a wider geographic area, right? So that's the increased threat. But at the same time, we are becoming more vulnerable in several different ways. First of all, climate change is causing epidemics of kidney disease in certain parts of the world because of the excess heat. Kidney disease increases our vulnerability to infectious diseases in some instances. We're seeing malnutrition. We're going to see more and more now malnutrition, and again, that'll increase our susceptibility to infectious diseases. And the area that I work on a lot is zoonotic diseases. I tend to focus on viruses, and we're going to see more and more zoonotic viruses emerge because of climate change and other drivers. When I say zoonotic viruses, that means viruses that are normally in animals that then jump into people. Also COVID, and we saw it with HIV, sadly in the 80s, a rise of opportunistic fungal infections. And it was many of, people don't necessarily...
Because HIV suppresses
the immune system, right? We saw something similar with COVID, that there was a rise of fungal disease. So the point here is that fungal disease are a major blind spot, and I think we need to be paying more attention to them.
Okay, so this is why you wrote the article, because it is like a bit of a blind spot, right? And we can't treat those as of now. Those kinds of fungal, is that
not
that part
well,
of it?
right? So the other problem is that fungal cells are somewhat similar to human cells compared to like a bacteria or a virus. And so the medicines we use to treat fungal disease can often have very severe side effects in people. So we don't even have that many good medicines, no licensed vaccine as of now.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, for context, I just want you all to know that I'm actually learning this all at the same time. There's been no pre-conversation where I've been exposed to this information. This is petrifyingly bad. They're just casually sitting here oh, we don't have any solutions. Oh, you can't treat it.
We do have solutions.
This is bad. This is really bad. Okay, carry on.
We're taking you and everyone on a journey, right, Neil? As
this
we always
is not
do.
a fun journey.
As we always do. Okay, we've talked a little bit about that. Can we zoom out for a second? Mm-hmm. Because you've talked about climate change and its impact on funguses, let's say. What about and I think just to say, for me, one of the things that's really interesting here is that we just don't often think about climate change and health in these kinds of many intersections, right? We often have maybe we think about extreme heat or something like that. But I want to talk about these intersections of climate and health and why that's a greater threat today, what's happening.
The point here is that climate change is killing us, and we have to understand the intersectionality of these crises. We are facing multiple converging existential threats, and we're addressing them as silos. But the solutions to these existential threats of pandemics, climate change, the loss of biodiversity will exist in a transdisciplinary space. And that's why we have to start thinking about how climate is affecting human health, is affecting biodiversity, is affecting so many other aspects of society, such as economy. For many, many years, I was made to feel ashamed of caring about nature. I went through this medical training. Yeah, and the messaging I was getting was that, you focus on humans, focusing on trees or polar bears or whatever it is a distraction from saving humans. But the reality is that we need nature to survive. Without nature, we're not going to thrive as a species. Everything is interdependent. And that's what we seem to have forgotten. We seem to have gone down this track of human exceptionalism, that somehow humans are different. And again, I'm just quoting someone else. Humans, we are not apart from nature, we are a part of nature. Right. And so the point here is that my work is about trying to save nature for people. And I focus specifically on trying to save rainforests to prevent future outbreaks of infectious diseases. Nature is a medicine chest. And we, are basically throwing it in the trash when we have so many diseases that are currently difficult to treat.
Thanks for listening to this quickie.
This episode was created by our superstar podcast team at TEDxLondon. Until next time,
stay curious.